Back on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, bringing Mary Kay back in here now to talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl and Mary Kay. Big quarterback day today in Mobile. I guess the thing that was most interesting to me was Kenny Pickett saying that the Browns were one of his first meetings. Kenny is obviously potentially the number one quarterback in this draft. We'll see how it all shakes out over the next few months, but right now that's sort of how it stands. Is it significant that the Browns have met with him? They've also met with Malik Willis. Are these significant meetings that should kind of perk our ears up when we hear about them?
I think so. I think it's significant because I know there have been years where they really weren't interested in the top quarterbacks in the draft. Over the past several years, after they drafted Baker Mayfield number one overall, they weren't going in and really spending all kinds of time on the quarterbacks. But now I think it's pretty obvious that they have to leave no stone unturned in their quest to improve their quarterback play. That might mean that Baker Mayfield comes in next season, plays lights out, and gets an extension and goes on to take the Browns to win Super Bowls. But they have to plan for the possibility that it doesn't happen like that. And therefore, they're doing their due diligence on the quarterbacks in this draft. And 5 of the top 6 quarterbacks in this draft were here at the Senior Bowl. So I got an opportunity to watch them for the past couple of days, and it's been very, very interesting. This is not supposedly a strong quarterback class per se, but there are some intriguing possibilities. 2 of the ones that you just mentioned, Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis, the Browns have talked to both of those guys. They probably talked to the other 3 here as well, because that's what they're here for, to do all of their due diligence on these guys. But I do think it's significant that they were one of the first to talk to Kenny Pickett. Now, Kenny Pickett is supposed to be the number 1 quarterback to go off the board in this draft. Even if he's not Joe Burrow, although he has been compared here to Joe Burrow by Senior Bowl executive director Jim Nagy, not necessarily in a complete player comparison, but sort of a vibe personality comparison. But quarterbacks always go higher than they're supposed to in a year when you don't think that it's a good quarterback year, because people still need them. People still have to take a chance on them. So to think that he's going to fall to the Steelers and spend another, 10 years in Pittsburgh, where he went to college at number 20, they would have to trade up to get him. I don't think he's going to last that long. I don't even think he's going to last to number 13, where the Browns pick. If he does, maybe he would be a good developmental prospect where he could come in and sit for a year behind Baker Mayfield, let Baker play out this 5th-year option and just see what happens after that. So I think that's very significant. I liked what I heard from him today. I liked what I saw from him on the field. And the same thing with Malik Willis, who I have been talking about and writing about as a very, very intriguing dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, it's funny. Mel Kiper, I saw somewhere compared Kenny Pickett to Derek Carr, which of course is interesting. Our podcast listeners know what that comparison means to us on this podcast. And then also, when I saw your tweet today about Kenny Pickett and him meeting with the Browns, when I saw a tweet about that, I was watching the NFL Network's coverage from the Senior Bowl from yesterday, and they showed Kenny running a play action boot and throwing a strike. And so it was just all perfect timing, right? Like, oh, maybe this would be the guy. But the question I have here is, like, if Kenny Pickett fell to 13 and the Browns did pull the trigger on picking him, that's basically saying, like, Baker Mayfield's done, right? Like, you can't pick a guy at 13 and, like, never play. He's got to be your guy, right? Whether it's a quarterback, a wide receiver, whatever it is, you can't just pick a guy that's never going to play for you.
Well, I mean, stranger things have happened in the NFL, of course, but the idea there would be that, yes, you are going to be preparing your new 1st-round pick to be your starting quarterback. But if you look at what happened in San Francisco this year, they traded up to draft Trey Lance in last year's draft, and they still started Jimmy Garoppolo this year because he was the best option to win games for them this year. And he took them to the playoffs, and he took them deep into the playoffs. So that's definitely another possibility, that you could draft a guy somewhere fairly high and look at him as something other than your starter in 2022. Some people think that Malik Willis is that guy, that, you can take him at a place like 13, and that, that you can develop him and work with him and bring him up the learning curve. And then he would be ready to go for you in 2023. And in the event that you end up with two good quarterbacks, it's a good problem to have, because then you can trade one for assets and you can get something out of that. So I actually think it wouldn't be a bad strategy at all if you think that one of these quarterbacks has some potential to be a good starter for you or for someone else, to go ahead and pull the trigger, because you might be able to get something out of it one way or the other.